Our next inductee comes from the volleyball program. We could almost start a wing for the volleyball program itself here at Northwood. They've had so much success over the years. They are our most recognized women's sport, and for good reason, with all the amount of success they've had. If she played another sport, our next inductee probably would have been in a long time ago. Well, we just have so many great people playing volleyball here. It's tough to get them all in at once. To introduce Jill Carr to the Athletic Hall of Fame is someone who's been on this stage more than just about anybody, because he's a Hall of Famer himself, and we've inducted so many people, and he was such an influence on everyone that he is the one that everyone wants to induct them. Our former coach and Hall of Famer, Mr. Jeff Williams.
Thank you, Travis. 2015 inductees, honored guests, family, friends. It certainly is my honor to introduce Jill Kotelnicki Carr. When Jill was here, she was in 1988. She was an All-American. In 1987 and 88, she was NAI District Player of the Year, Most Valuable Player. She was first team NAIA district in 1986, 87, and 88. And the three different areas that she still has records that still stand within the top 10 in the 33 years we've had volleyball at Northwood. Fifth in digs, which means she's a great defensive player. Sixth in aces, which means she's a great server. And seventh in assists, which means she is a great setter. And that's what I recruited her to be, was a setter. And so I can remember back in 30 years ago, in 1985, sitting in her living room with her mom and family, talking about Northwood financial aid, talking about Northwood volleyball, and talking about her role as the next setter and at Northwood University. And when she came in the fall of '85, she actually was not the setter. It was the fourth year of our program, and we had a four-year starter as a setter, and so she was a hitter for the first season. And so her record is she's like fifth or sixth in assists, but she only had 3 years to achieve that record, as all the people ahead of her had 4 years to do that. And if you actually just averaged her total assists out, then she would be third all-time in assists. She 4 times took the team to NAI district championships. 3 times she took the team to the NAI nationals. And basically, when I was recruiting her, we'll talk a little bit about that early part of her contact with Northwood. I had a checklist of items that I was looking for. And one of the very first things I was looking for is someone who had a great passion for the sport of volleyball. And so that was one of the qualities I was looking for, and it was the first one that I recognized, was her passion for volleyball when you watched her play. Not only the smile on her face, but the body language that she had. And when you're the setter and you're the boss, you have to have a positive body language at all times. Sometimes you're not setting the ball real well, and you finally have a really good set, and the hitter hits it off the back wall, and you just turn and say, my bad. When you're saying, darn, that's the first one I've had in the last 20 sets, or whatever it may be. And that was one of the very first qualities I liked about her. The second part was when you're recruiting, the physical skills, the 3 S's. Size, speed, and strength. And in volleyball, size is a little bit of a barrier because you have this 7'4" and 1/8 inch net in the way. But as a setter, she was actually above average size as a setter back then. Today, she would be small as a setter from 30 years ago. So she fit that mold. The second thing would be speed, but in volleyball, it's not so much speed as quickness. Size of the court much smaller, less than half the size of a basketball court. But you need that quickness because when someone is hitting a ball at 50+ miles an hour, if you don't have speed and reaction, you're not going to be able to play. And then strength, and we're not talking about, even though they did have to bench press, squat, and do all those other things, that's not the kind of strength you need in volleyball. In volleyball, you needed the kind of stamina to, at the end of a 2-hour match, you were jumping just as high, whether you're blocking or hitting, or you're moving just as quick as you were at the beginning of the match. And she had all of those qualities, so I could check all of those things off. Yeah, volleyball is a kind of a unique skill, and mostly in America, not so much in England and Scotland. Many American sports are catch and throw. And in volleyball, if you catch and throw, those are illegal. Then they blow the whistle and give the point to the other team. So if you cannot control the ball with your forearms, and you cannot control the ball with open hands, you really can't play. And so she was obviously had great technical skills that she brought with her and then enhanced those at Northwood. The fact that passing the ball underhand, that would be digs, and she is one of the leaders in Northwood history in digs. Overhand passing is setting, so that would be another area where she excelled. And so that part of it was very easy to recognize. She had the ball control skills. Once she had the ball control skills, she could be on the floor, but what did we do with her? And because she came as a setter, but she was such a good hitter that in her freshman year, she was a hitter, outside blocker, and was very, very good at that. Can she serve? Of course. You know, she's one of the leaders and aces in the history of Northwood University. But she did have that specialized skill of setting. I've often tried to equate setting to another type of sport, and because my background has basically been in football and volleyball for the last 49 years, I liken her to a quarterback, because that's what the setter is, the quarterback on offense. And just as in football, where you might have what we would call a pre-snap before the play starts read, whether it's the number of high safeties, alignment, leverage of the cornerbacks, where's the Mike linebacker, those kinds of things. In volleyball, you have the same kind of thing. She wants to look at every rotation. She wants to look at the matchups. If someone is my size blocking on the other side of the net, she better be setting to the hitter, hitting over that short little blocker all the time. So she has to recognize those kinds of things. In football, the quarterback might have, after the snap, post-snap reads if they're running an option play or if they're throwing a pass and have to do that to read someone in the secondary. Setter has to do the same thing because she needs to do that when the pass comes up to her. Unfortunately, in football, it's a lot easier. The quarterback has the ball in two hands. She's trying to do the exact same thing because she would have called in college 3 different plays for one serve. So when the opponent serves the ball, you have a serve reception play, you would have a free ball play, and you would have an offensive play. And she might call 3 different things, or maybe she would call just 2. And she has to do all this while running down a moving object, the ball, and not catching and then throwing the ball, but setting the ball. And this is what she excelled at, her abilities to do those things. She had great leadership skills simply because of how she handled herself even when the team was playing poorly. It's easy to be a leader when things are going great. 35-0, we're ahead. Hey, it's great. When it's 12-7 or in volleyball, you know, if it's 10-5, in the old days, it might take another hour to finish the match with the old scoring rules, which they have changed now. But it was how she acted when things were not going the way we wanted that I noticed not only in high school, but then she carried that on when she was here at Northwood. The last thing that was always very important to me was work ethic, but that's very difficult to tell. You can see how hard they work during a match and so on. But as a person, I've often believed that 95% of all a person's problems can be solved with hard work. And I didn't realize that until she got here. And then when we had those 8-hour practices all through the month of August, not straight 8 hours, maybe 3.5 in the morning, 3.5 in the evening, but she took advantage of all of those opportunities to make herself a better player and to make her team a better team. So it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce to you the next member of the Northwood Athletic Hall of Fame, Jill Kotelnicki Carr.
Wow, it's different up here than in my living room. I'm honored and humbled to be inducted into Northwood's Hall of Fame. I want to thank my family, my friends, my coach for being here to share this award with me. I really have to thank Jeff Williams. He was the one who recruited me out of high school. He made me feel like Northwood would be the perfect team for me. He was the only coach recruiting me as a setter. Other schools were looking at me as a hitter, but Jeff saw me as a setter. In fact, one college coach told Jeff I would never make it as a collegiate setter. Someone told me once there are players who can set, and then there are players who are setters. When I got to Northwood, I could set, but when I left, I was a setter, thanks to Jeff. I want to thank him for all of his hard work in helping me become a better player. I also want to thank my mom and dad. My mom and dad always supported me in everything I did, especially when it came to sports. I started playing volleyball in junior high and continued through high school. They didn't really know a lot about volleyball, so they had to learn the game as we went along. Eventually, they fell in love with the sport, just like I did. When I told my parents I wanted to play volleyball in college, they said they would do whatever it took to help me achieve that goal. They supported my decision when I chose to attend Northwood. They met a coach they knew would look out for their daughter, and they saw a school that I knew I would get a great education at. It has been many years since my Northwood volleyball days, but I can honestly say it was a great time in my life that I'll never forget. I was lucky enough to be part of a special time in Northwood's volleyball history. I had the honor of being coached by Jeff Williams for 2 years, and then Kevin Fagan for my last 2 years. Some athletes are lucky to get one great coach in their career, but I was lucky and got 2. They both built teams with tremendous volleyball players who were also awesome teammates and friends. I found when I stepped on campus that first day of training camp, I had a group of girls I could count on and I knew would be there for me. I have many great memories from playing here. One of my favorite memories was when my teammates were looking out for me. It was my sophomore year. It was my first year setting, and it was very stressful. I replaced a very good setter with Debbie Fagan, and I was running an offense for a team with a history of winning. I had good games, and I had some really bad games. Early in the season, we traveled to Wayne State for a match, and I was very nervous because it was close to home, and I knew my family and some friends would be there to watch. I have to say I did not play very well. My poor hitters didn't know where my sets were going. They were all over. Jeff was frustrated and not very happy with my game. After we lost, we loaded up on the bus to head back to Midland. We stopped at Burger King to eat, and we were shuffling out of the bus past Jeff in the first seat. As I was walking past him, he grabbed my arm, looked me in the eyes, and said, "You are eating with me." I immediately lost my appetite. The team all grabbed their food, sat down, all sat together, while Jeff and I chose a small table on the other side of the restaurant. It wasn't 10 seconds after unwrapping my burger that I saw Tammy Batzloff standing next to my table. "Hey, Coach, we're done eating and we're ready to go," she said. Jeff looked dumbfounded. We literally had just sat down. Apparently, she overheard Jeff telling me to sit with him, and she knew he was not going to go easy on me. I found out she told everyone to eat fast to save me from Jeff. They were really looking out for me that night. The 4 years I played here, we went to nationals 3 times. All 3 trips were memorable in their own right. My freshman year was special because it was my first year and I was in awe of the entire experience. My junior year we went, and it was quite memorable in itself. I got food poisoning the day we arrived there. I was sick all night and did not play our first game. When I arrived to play our second game, I met a coach from the Hawaiian team. He had heard I missed the game because I was sick. He put a voodoo doll necklace around my neck and said some sort of chant. It was supposed to remove the sickness from my body and give me strength. I don't really know if that helped me, but I do know I got on the court that day. My senior year was very special. I was the only senior on the team. We finished the best we ever have in the history of volleyball here at Northwood. We finished in 5th place. It wasn't a national championship, but it was a great way to end my career. I have so many more great memories from the 4 years I played here. My kids and husband could say they've heard every single one of them probably. As I mentioned earlier, I was lucky to play on some great teams with exceptional talent. In fact, I was teammates with 2 current Hall of Fame members and a Hall of Fame coach. So I could never have gotten this award without my coaches, without my teammates, without all their talents, and without their support. Thank you.
Congratulations, Jill. Very much deserved, of course.